Good afternoon, and welcome again to Travel Perspective Sessions. Thanks to Facebook for a very illuminating talk. It's always good to have them here to hear what's going on at Instagram and Facebook. And I've got a subject which is equally of importance to, obviously, you or people who are in the hall, and to the travel industry as a whole. It's influencer marketing. Now, I'll declare myself. My name's Steve Keenan. I work with Mark at Travel Perspective, and I'm a recovering print journalist. 20 years ago, the whole world changed on me, which is fine, because I had a good time, and I've learned to appreciate and understand a little of how that world has changed, as I'm sure many of you are doing in the travel industry. So once upon a time, there were books and there were newspapers, and between them, they produced pretty much all the travel and tourism content that was deemed fit to print. Then came the internet, YouTube, and social media, and publishers were no longer the gatekeepers to what you could and should read and view. Now everybody is a publisher, but some things haven't changed. The reason that most of us still decide where to go on holiday and who we travel with is through word of mouth and recommendations. Word of mouth is still the most powerful marketing asset there is, as I'm sure many of the panel will agree. So family, friends, and publishers will influence us, so do reviews of products and places. Now, we wouldn't dream of going to buy a product or book anything without reading reviews about the destination or the brand in the first place. One review company called FIFO gave me an interesting stat a year or two ago now, saying 80% of us wouldn't trust a website that didn't leave us the option of leaving a review. Not that we want to, but we don't trust a company that doesn't have reviews on their site. So customers who have been there and tried it are now influencers, so too are staff who are passionate advocates, so too are bloggers, vloggers, micro-influencers, and celebrities who endorse a destination through their words and images. But brands and agencies have struggled in 27 to understand and harness these influences. Some demand a lot but deliver very little. Then there are some very good ones delivering a great deal and increasingly offering creative solutions as well as audiences. But how do you find them? How much do you pay them? Are these audiences actually being influenced? And how important is data research in influencing how brands market to the customers? Well, joining me today are 5 experts in the field who are going to shed light on this increasingly sophisticated issue. So from my right is a friend of many years, is Jaume Marín, who's the marketing director of Costa Brava Tourism. I think it's fair to say that Jaume is one of the original advocates in using bloggers and vloggers to promote the Costa Brava. He also got niche micro-influencing some years ago. He started attracting food bloggers, art bloggers, wine bloggers, and how best to utilize influence, including working with other destinations like Emilia-Romagna in Italy to attract people with food interests to both countries. On Jaume's left is Danica. Danica is from Dash Hudson. You're a brand strategist, Danica. Danica's kindly come across from Canada to join us today. Her company is a SaaS company, so software as a service company that works with brands purely on Instagram. We're going to hear a lot about Instagram today. Brands subscribe to its analytics to provide user data and tools to understand that data and provide insights. Their customers vary. Some rely on user-generated content. Others rely on influencers' content. Some hire photographers, although Dash Hudson doesn't itself buy content. In the middle, we have Whaler, which is a UK-based agency. This is James Street, who is the co-founder. Whaler creates content for brands, using influencers mostly for Instagram again. It has worked for Dubai Tourism, bringing in Russian influencers who will post and create content which Dubai gets to keep. Increasingly, Whaler is looking for good creators who don't necessarily have huge audiences of their own, but can provide and create good content. It's another shift we're seeing already. Debbie Hindle is in charge of 4Comms. Another one like me who's had lunch 10 years ago and said, "What's a blogger, Steve? What's a blogger, Debbie?" And we thought, "My God, this is changing rapidly." And we stood side by side together, and we're still here and still talking. Debbie, thank you for joining us today. And Mark Henschel, on my immediate right, is a former journalist, now works for an agency called Cubist in Brighton. And Mark's company has got some very interesting things to say. They still work with influencers in the blogger sense and micro-influencers, but they also realized increasingly that the best influencers are the customers of the brand and destination, and the staff themselves who are passionate advocates. So, a huge area to cover today, but we've got the time, and we will invite your questions on Slido, slido.com, hashtag, or password is WTMLDN. So if you want to pose a question, we'll pick them up later and put them to the panel. So, a long introduction, but let me start by asking each of you, starting with Jeremy from the right, what to you is the best influencer marketing out there at the moment?
Who's the best? Sorry, influencer.
Which type of influence marketing is most effective?
Well, the thing is that we are changing the way that we are seeing marketing so far. All the brands and DMOs we have used outbound marketing, so we just shout everything, we are the best, we are doing this, we are the best. And now and we target everybody, and then we start to target more niche markets, and now we are shifting to other kind of marketing, more the inbound marketing. So instead of shooting everything that moves and see if we hunt something, now we are fishing. Now we put the hook, really nice hook, and we try to attract them to us. So all this means that we need to work on a lot of more attractive things to the customer, more quality content, and more relevant content for the customer and for our potential clients. So we're working in this strategy, and I think most of the big brands are working in this strategy, and the ones that are not doing it, they're going to do it in 2 or 3 years. So we are the best, we are the fast, we will be better there. So this is how we're working. So content for us, and relevant content and niche content is working very well, and this is what we try to do. Know better our clients, know what they need, and trying to offer them so they come to us and not us to them.
What sort of hooks are you throwing into the sea for next year?
With some different hooks for next year. This year we throw a lot of hooks regarding nature activities. So we have, for instance, a lot of ebook content that produced from content creators from different ways, from different countries. And now we're trying to segment from the different niche markets with a language. For instance, for us, Scandinavians are a big market, so we created a lot of content in English and all that, which is really good and very global, but we need to be very specific in each market. Not just on the content, but in the kind of content and who are using this content. So
you're going away from the big campaigns into more and more micro and specialist type of content.
Yes.
Is this something that you recognize?
Yeah, definitely. I see that, the most meaningful relationships with influencers are the ones that drive the biggest results for brands. So having those very authentic experiences, sending a bunch of influencers to a location and partner with other brands and work together. Like, for example, we work with Revolve, and they're killing it in terms of influencers right now because they're cultivating that really great lifestyle with their influencers, and they're partnering with some really great brands like Stuart Weitzman. They partnered this summer with, in the Hamptons, they partnered with like the floatable brand that's like really popular right now. I think it's called Fun Boy, and they ended up getting just so much exposure from that. They created a really desirable experience. People wanted to be there. They just did their awards earlier this month, and that was the talk of the town. And so I think anytime brands can create those authentic relationships and just really portray that experience, I think those are the most successful.
I think you're one of the brands or companies that only work on Instagram, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
When did it only become Instagram for you?
Because Instagram is still very organic. You can really engage with your audience, and you can start to build that brand story on Instagram more so than other platforms like Facebook and Twitter and that sort of thing, which is why we choose to solely focus on Instagram.
Okay, James, you're another Instagram fan, but tell me, what's your main area of influencer marketing these days, and also why is Instagram such a big tick for you?
Just on the previous point is interesting, like throwing the hook out, because in the Russian example you gave, essentially what Dubai were trying to attract is the Russian sort of shoppers. So we went out and actually sought out influencers that would have an audience that would suit that. So we shipped over a lot of lifestyle bloggers from Russia to take content, and that content was then repackaged in Facebook and Instagram ads and used by Dubai Tourism to target that market. So you can be pretty specific on targeting who you want inbound, and you can do it for any demographic on Instagram. Again, Dubai wanted families from the UK, so we went out and found influencers who had young families to show them what was available in Dubai, and obviously their audience is also of a very similar demographic with a young family, for the most part. What was your second question?
Well, I think content is one of your main planks of influencer marketing, is getting these guys, as you mentioned, coming down from Russia into Dubai to create content which Dubai gets to keep as well. Yeah. That's an interesting evolvement of the way that content has been created.
So exactly, and the point that I said, that they can then serve those ads back to the market they want to target, and often performs better than just the standard content that they would have taken before, beautiful shots of Dubai. And often or not, if they're serving it in Facebook, targeted at the Russian market, they'll actually recognize the influencers involved in the campaign. So they go, oh, that's what's the name, and it gets a lot more click-through rates than the rest of it. So,
and presumably those Russian influencers have audiences of their own, which they multiply the exposure to as well.
Absolutely.
What sort of, out of interest, what sort of things did Dubai want to show to the Russians? Is it shopping malls? Is it?
I think there's a few big spenders over in Russia they're trying to attract, but it's, again, same in the UK. If they're targeting families, we wanted adrenaline junkies, and we would just go and find the specific influencers that suited those different types of people that they wanted coming to Dubai. And often or not, the audience is very similar to the influencer, because I'm not going to follow a new mum in Germany, for instance, but I bet you in that influencer, if she's a new mum in Germany, will have very similar sort of demographic following her, interested in new mum stuff.
Debbie, it's moved along a bit, hasn't it, in 10 years?
Well, it has, and that's what's so exciting about it. And you asked earlier what the biggest trends were in influencer marketing. And I think the data we now get is phenomenal in terms of audience insight. So we don't have to guess who's influencing. We can see, if we use something like our For Engage service, you can actually see who is influencing your customers or potential customers. And the influencers themselves, I think, are still missing a trick in not sharing their audience insights clearly enough with the rest of the industry. And if there's one thing to the influencers I'd take out of that, is share your expertise and your knowledge of your audience insight with brands, and make sure that the two are related. And the industry, the travel industry, don't just assume that your audience exists. You've got the data, you've got your social channels. Go in and really drill down and understand who's there and what you have already to really make the most of it. We do a lot of work, traditional influencer outreach campaigns, but we also do global influencer outreach campaigns. We're one of 5 companies in the world on the roster for Brand USA. So although we're an agency based in UK, Dubai and Abu Dhabi, we're doing global activations. So we're looking for influencers all over the world, and that's another thing I would say. Good influencer campaigns are they're not following traditional marketing silos of Europe, Middle East and Africa and Asia or America. So global strategy for an influencer outreach is critically important, because you can capture so many more people if you look across the world when you're looking at your strategy.
And jumping back on that, Danica, to you, data analysis is what you're all about, isn't it? It's where it's all going as well.
Yeah, and data is huge right now. Everybody wants to know, what is the impact of those relationships. They're putting so much money and resources into those relationships, and really it's so hard to tell how effective they're going to be. And so that's what Dash Hudson provides, is you can see down to the engagement, how many likes and comments they received, what that average engagement looked like for the influencer to even know if they have a qualified or an engaged audience, and then down to every single time they post about you, what that engagement was like, and even an estimate of how many followers you gain, so you can at least attach that back to ROI. And I would say that's the biggest question that we face every single day, is just brands don't know, how these relationships, like what that ROI is for their brand.
And you have to create that piece of software that can be the semantic search that puts all the plugs in the right place to be able to come up with it. Mark, you do everything. You're another software for as a service company.
We are.
Like moving away from sort of consumer and brand face almost into your own piece of software, which you can sell to brands?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, authenticity and trust came up earlier on. That was a big part of. We've been in influence marketing for a while, and we started moving towards micro-influencers for that reason, because we felt they had more trust and authenticity and transparency. And then, you know, we run lots of campaigns for different travel clients, and we started working more with customers and employees because they know the products and services better than anyone. They know the travel destination inside out, and customers because who better to be an advocate than someone who's just visited your destination. I think what's been a challenge to date is this kind of word of mouth marketing, is how to kind of organise it and manage it. So we looked around the market and couldn't find anything, and so we ended up building it ourselves, which is what Cubist is. It's a SaaS product and a tech platform where a brand can invite their employees and customers to the platform. They can monitor their activity. Customers and employees are able to share content on their own social media platforms, and you can track that, and you've got all the analytics within a dashboard. There's also some cross-pollination because a lot of the brands we work with micro-influencers and influencers as well, and so we can use some of that content on our platform for employees and customers to share. So it's kind of we're a part of a bigger space here, but a lot of the research we look at from people like McKinsey and Nielsen and Edelman. Edelman talk about they've got a trust barometer that a lot of people will be familiar with, and they talk about an inversion of influence. And they now say, a person like yourself is as influential as someone like an academic. So these are these everyday influencers, customers and employees who have got less reach than an influencer, but they've got a high degree of trust and authenticity with their network, their friends, their family and peers. And if you can scale that, so not 10, 15, but 50, 5,000, then a brand's got a real opportunity to harness what's probably already happening organically, but on a bigger scale.
There's two things you talked about the other day. You reckon we're just at the start of the breadth of influencer marketing that can be done.
Yeah.
But also we're going back to sort of word of mouth marketing, which is an old-fashioned.
Yeah, in one way, I feel like this isn't a new thing. Word of mouth marketing's been around forever. I mean, that's not a new thing. It's just social media has enabled this to happen in a different way. And I think there's been a democratization of influence and trust. So I'm sure George Clooney still sells Nespresso, but if a best friend says to me, "Wow, I've just been to Fiji. If you're over that part of the world, you should go to it," then I'm absolutely going to trust him or her because they're one of my friends. So.
Question from me: how are you rewarding those guys for those recommendations on a small basis?
So our Cubist is a gamified platform. So the best way to think of it is like something like Strava or Duolingo. So it's gamified. So you have a leaderboard, you get points for sharing, but there's no payment involved. The customers that, for example, for Air Mauritius, we had it's one of our clients, and we did a campaign called Air Mauritius 360 where. The insight into Mauritius was really that a lot of people know it for its beaches, but they don't know, about its wildlife, adventure, lots of other solo travel, lots of stuff you can do. So we invited kind of customer fans and travellers and influencers to kind of share on Instagram with the hashtag Air Mauritius 360 as a UGC competition. And off the back of that, somebody won a holiday, but then we had some data capture. So then we invited those customers to our platform. And then we feed them content, videos, stuff that they're obviously fans of Mauritius, and they share it. So we did that campaign about 2 years ago as a one-off campaign that we hoped would have legs. And I think it's got about 18,000. There's about, if you look on Air Mauritius 360 now, there's about 18,000 on that hashtag, which is good. It's kind of made Air Mauritius part of that conversation. So it's people kind of share for passion rather than for payment.
Jeremy, you wanted to come in.
Just to adapt to this, what we did as a DMO is we realized that the brand we didn't know the brand. And this was a very sad thing because we thought that we owned the brand, we owned the colors, the Pantone and all that, and now we don't own the brand. And we realized, who owns the brand now?
You mean Costa Brava?
Yes. Well, any brand, but Costa Brava in this case. And we realized that probably DMO has a small part, tour operators have a part, prescribers, influencers has a big part, but as well the clients and the locals. So in Instagram, we start doing, for instance, an action called Instagram Your City, just based for the locals and the tourists, that to every week have some visit to a special visit to see something that you don't see normally.
I came with you on one of these.
You came with me, with us in Cadaqués. Yes, I remember.
A really brilliant thing which you should all do in your communities is.
Yes.
I mean, there is no content out there in travel and tourism effectively because it was newspapers and books. That's all that produce content. But in Costa Brava, when their budget was cut in 2008, marketing budget for tourism promotion was cut by 92%. I think you had to work a bit more cleverly with social and digital. So 40 villages in Catalonia. Mm-hmm. People would come out from the village. The mayor would open up the town hall on Sunday morning. You get coffee and cake. You get 2 or 3 people in who know how to do Instagram and give tips to people. Then you go wandering around the town. Everybody takes pictures which the town can use for its self-promotion. The town loves it because all the restaurants stay open and they get filled with lunch people and having a nice time. And they learn how to keep that own identity running. They create it themselves.
In one year and 2 months, they produce over 200,000 pictures with the In Costa Brava hashtag. 1 year and 2 months.
So they're all influencers.
So they are influencers in their side. So it's having the locals as well getting involved and having tourists as well getting involved. So this is just changing completely the perception. Maybe our promotion should be going through them to get all the full brand values.
Debbie?
Yes, I'd like to add to that often we're talking to tourist boards and they're looking for inbound influencers to come to their destination and forget the influencers that are on their doorstep. So we try and always harness the local influencers, work with them, introduce visiting influencers to them so that they're hearing from locals about what's happening on the ground as well. So always use the people you have on your doorstep. Don't always look for inbound people to articulate your own destination.
But it's something that, would you agree as well, Danica and James, that they should be doing? They need to create content from the ground up as well?
Yeah, so that's something that we talk about with our brands and really looking at their own audience, look to see who's engaging with them, whether it's, someone who is local and is liking all of and commenting on all of their content, like looking within your own audiences, your own locations to find those more meaningful relationships, which is even easier on a micro influencer scale. So yeah, I would definitely agree that that's a great approach.
Yeah. James, you got a view on that?
No, that sounds, good to me.
Okay. So let's go back to some basics, because most people I think in the room probably understand influencers as bloggers. Is that difficult to say? But taking it, that is one of the main considerations. One thing we understand quite simply, and everybody has done that at some point, is to bring in a blogger. Debbie, you've had a lot of experience with bloggers over the last 10 years. Tell me what the state of the traditional influencer brackets blogger vlogger is right now.
The market's expanded massively in the last 10 years. I used to stand up at influencer conferences and say, why don't I hear from you? Why don't you come and approach me and tell me what you're doing and give me ideas?
That was a silly thing to say, wasn't it?
Well, it was a good thing to say. Because the great thing about influencers is they're all often one-man band, entrepreneurial, creative, visionary publishers, videographers. They're a hub of fantastic ideas that you can get so much creative thought from that I really wanted to encourage that. And very rarely do I get a good pitch from someone who's really researched the client, understand what the client wants. I get because the market's grown and there are many more influencers, I get many more pitches which are, please can I have a hotel stay in return for a partnership and I've got 1 million followers or whatever it might be. I can't do anything with that information because it comes down to the audience first message. We need to know who somebody's audiences is and they need to understand my client's audiences before we can talk. This is an extreme example, but we worked for a ferry company who once stood up in front of an influencer group and said, I don't care how many people you have, unless they're within a 2-hour drive of Calais, I'm not interested in talking to you. And it's that extreme. People really need to understand the detail of what they're pitching, who to and why, on both sides. So the tourist boards and industry need to understand what they can get from the influencers. So I think there's still a lot of professionalism to come into the industry, but there's a huge amount of creativity, enthusiasm, insight, and passion from the influencers who are good, who are engaged with their audience, who just need to explain that to the industry.
Okay, and this is something else I've sort of seeing in the last few months is what you say there is just as journalists used to pitch to agencies and newspapers 10 years ago, but with rubbish ideas, most of them. A very few got what the paper wanted and pitched very well. Again, James, you've mentioned that you, these days, will use a lot of professional photographers to create content for you who don't have audiences, but they've got skills that can produce good content. So are we, with the niches, you go for a food writer or you're going for an art specialist, are we going back in many ways to traditional skills that people you can use who don't have large audiences, but you're contracting to do particular jobs?
Yeah, I think the influencer provides two things really well. They have a marketing channel and also content creation, and Whaler does lean towards the higher end of the content creation, so brands who need videos or still images or whatever it is to them push out to their paid ads will use influencers as a way to create that content, which is great. It looks more authentic, performs better on the ads. So yeah, we will accept influencers from 5,000 followers sort of as a base minimum up to millions and millions. So we don't really care about the numbers. The numbers kind of prove how good the content is. And we're not looking for sort of minor celebrities or whatever it is that have built an audience, not from their quality of content we're looking at.
Do you want to come in on this, Mark?
Into which bit?
Well, well, any of it really. The idea that there is still a strong demand for skilled people who can write, take photographs, take film, but not necessarily with 1 million plus audiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what Debbie was saying about professionalism, there's a lot of good influencers out there who create good content, and I think it's a big space. I mean, there's plenty of production companies, and kind of what people call older school content providers out there who are still absolutely kind of essential, I think, because that's the quality that you need for whoever's sharing the kind of the content to share. You need that quality to begin with. I'd absolutely go along with the kind of going back to what Debbie was saying about reach. We should split this idea of influence from popularity. They're not the same thing, and it's not an attention game. Influence for me is it's about effect change. It's about having an effect on someone or something. And for destination marketing, it should be, if you use influencer marketing, what's the pre-state and post-state, and that's what to measure in terms of ROI. And I think sometimes influencer marketing, we can get caught up with kind of likes and engagement, and we forget about real world influence in terms of kind of what's moving the dial.
Yeah. Okay. Now, back to some basics. For a lot of people, will be small companies here, smaller destinations. Two things that you normally ask first, Jeremy, is where do I find these influencers and how much do they cost? Can you shed any light on this?
Well, first I would like to mention a point, because this is a question that I always get asked, and now it's been discussed here, and it worries me a little bit when they talk about the ROI. Now everything, which is good, has to measure by ROI. Where is the ROI? Well, I always ask, where is the ROI to come to WTM? Well, can you answer me that? Well, now we have to answer everything with ROI, which is you have to take a more mid-term and long-term approach. It's not like a question of millions of users, of followers, or likes, or whatever. You have to get the engagement, which you mentioned very well. But it's engagement in the long term. You have to get, if you get these influencers, get some with similar values to your brand. If you are in nature, don't get a biker, don't get a motorbike or whatever. So values is very important. Why you do things is more important than what things do you do. So ROI is good because we need to track if we're doing well or not, but don't panic over that. Don't panic over that. Look things mid-term and look things that probably, as Mark mentioned, authority, the capacity of this person to influence other persons and to change their opinion of these persons or to make them make a decision is better. You know that we start working with travel bloggers just to get the awareness. That was the idea and was the objective, the awareness. But then we moved to different things. Well, now we want to get the interest and the desire to come. So we moved to more niche market. We start with parent bloggers, with help with travel perspective, with breed moms and all that. And that became more effective in that time. So and in midterm. So it's not only a question of just measure ROI and million of impacts and all that, which looks very good in the report, in the final report, and your boss is very happy and all that. But look as well for the brand and look at least midterm and look on the engagement of it. And try, if you talk about influencers and the relationship is not a one night off. I mean, I want to make love with these guys, So it's a long-term thing.
It's commitment.
It's commitment. Yeah, it's commitment. So at least, it's look long-term.
Yeah.
So because they'll become your ambassadors. Because one thing of the content, which is really good, that they produce content for you, when you produce this content, as a DMO, as a brand, as I've seen today, really nice pictures and some of the stands, nobody trusts in these pictures. Nobody trusts in these pictures. Nobody trusts when they say Costa Brava is the most brilliant destination in the world. Well, this guy gets paid at the end of the month to say this. But the personal experiences, and that makes things change. So let's look at midterm and don't panic over things and don't just take short-term things and all that. So and now it's like the time for influence and all that. Well, this is not a trend. If you feel it is a trend and you just want to tick you off, say, look, I've done an influencer trip and that's it. No, this doesn't work like this. You have to be very constant. We've been working for it in 8 years and we start seeing results and good results, but you have to be constant and consistent and get a midterm. And they are going to become your brand ambassadors, digital brand ambassadors. But it's like a long-term relationship.
Done deal. Now, where do you find your influencers? Do you go out and seek them? Do they come to you and you choose them, or?
Sometimes they come to us, but as Debbie said, they make this is not a pitch. They send you, I would like to come in change of this, and I came back always said this is a wish, it's not a pitch. So it's different things. So we will look in conferences. We are in all conferences. We organize twice TVEX in Costa Brava, and then we talk to other people as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have PR agencies, sometimes we go straight to them, and sometimes we talk to different associations, and we follow them, and we retell them. We never invited a blogger that we don't read the blog.
Okay.
Never. So we read everything. And then we see, well, maybe this is according to our values, the engagement is good. It's not that everyone is retweeting themselves like bloggers do. They retweet themselves, and then they create all these big audiences, which is not true. So we need to see what kind of audience. So we try to look at it, and then you have to pay for it. Okay, maybe 10 years ago we didn't have to pay. I agree with that. But now, if they produce good quality content, you have to pay for it because they have to be professionals, and we have to be professionals.
And you
so
said
it's not a hobby anymore.
You said a day rate or a job rate for the whole thing, or
a job for the job. What they produce. And if they are going to produce an ebook, or if they're going to produce so many pictures, or they're going to produce this kind of video and all that, and it's an overall job, and it's a contract always.
And I'd say typically they go above and beyond once they're in the destination. I'm sure you'd agree that taking Insta stories now, they're doing Snapchat, they're going like way above what you would.
Well, that goes back to being professional, doesn't it? If you're professional, you're going to give a bit more than you're expected to for good.
And then clients love that. We've just done a campaign with Visit Sweden where we took 5 influencers out in return for content creation, videos, imagery, interviews. And the client was so impressed with one of them, rather than having 10 images, they bought 250 from them because the quality was just so superb. And that was then fed into all the advertising. A whole campaign around these influencers said this about the destination. So if it's good quality, then you'll obtain it.
Danica, just go back to you. You don't buy content as such.
So we don't buy content, but just in terms of payment of influencers, they are professionals, so you should be paying them. It is their job. I think that you can have different payment tiers depending on what you're getting back for it. I think that brands who and tourism agencies who may be a little bit strapped for cash, you can definitely take the more micro influencer route. Typically, gifting product or an all expense paid trip is suffice enough for payment. And also looking within your own audience in order to find people who are organically engaging, local people who would be really excited to share hashtags and get their content out there. But in terms of our platform specifically, no, we don't buy content, but you can source content through our platform by getting rights. Typically, brands or users will give up the rights to their photos for an at mention or a photo tag, or depending on the brand and the prevalence of that.
Okay.
So that's a way.
Very good. And Debbie, just going back to money, well, where do you find your bloggers now? Do you have a massive database of all the bloggers in the world and mark them all out of 100? Is it like a school of reports or anything?
We do have our own databases because we've been working in this field for a long time. The most important thing is to read them. We've done influencer outreach campaigns, for example, for Air France KLM, and they wouldn't work with anyone they hadn't met, which I actually think is a really good a good priority to get to know, because the person you're dealing with is a brand in their own right, and you have to make sure the brand matches your outreach strategy. So yes, you have to follow them, find them, understand them, meet them at events. You can also work, I think the influencer industry is brilliant at clubbing together to share expertise and knowledge. So there are associations like the Professional Guild of Travel Writers, and then community ambassadors like Traverse, which has its own conference, and others. So find those groupings and go to those conferences. Mummy bloggers have their own conferences, and just meet as many of them as you can. And then before you even, as you're doing that, understand your own audience and who's actually, who are they following, because that then, you can then replicate the experience and find the other people like that.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to do a little mythical exercise with you all that you five are all working together in a company, and somebody comes to you, they represent a small island in Polynesia, and they say, right, we want some influencers, we want to work out how we're going to put our small island on the map. So you're in charge of staff, okay? You're in charge of staff and user-generated. You're in charge of the sort of PR side. James, you're doing content. Danica, you're doing data. And you're doing the marketing, Jamie, okay? So you sit round, one of you starts a conversation, say, right, how are we going to do this small island in Polynesia with influencers? Mark, how do you start it?
Well, I'd start with objectives in terms of, apart from kind of raising brand awareness and getting more visitors, kind of what types of different people you'd want to attract, different types of demographics, because I think that's going to affect what type of influencers and influencer groups.
All right, I want to attract, for the sake of argument, the family market, 2 kids, aged 25 to 43, from Northern Europe.
Okay, that's very specific.
Oh, well, specific brief, professional.
So then I'd look at, you know, in terms of employees and customers, I'd work with the brand to look at their most engaged employees. That's what we usually do. We usually set up a pilot scheme, and we work with a specific group of employees, and we onboard those employees onto our platform. And on the platform, we'd be sharing family content. So that would be video, that would be images, blog posts, articles, different things that employees could go onto on a daily basis. We upload content daily, and they can share to their peers, their friends, and their family.
Would you, later today we're going to have some presentations of the Best Social Media Project 2017. I recommend it at 4 o'clock. And as of last year, which was Iceland, this year we're seeing it from the Faroe Islands, of getting the people who live in those islands to be ambassadors on the screen, welcoming questions. Is that the sort of thing you see these days for
Well, definitely. I think it was, it's not one of our clients, but Pure Michigan, I think going back to kind of local kind of influencers, they started something on Instagram a few years back called Pure Michigan hashtag, and most of their Instagram feed, I think, is other travellers or influencers, but a lot of it is that groundswell of people who live around that area. So yeah, I see people on an island like that we're talking about. It could be kind of hoteliers, it could be different people involved in travel and tourism. Most people who would be kind of giving kind of word of mouth anyway, organically, and kind of, it's person to person, but you're allowing them to do that on social media as well. A lot of them are kind of proud about where they're from and want to talk about it. With customers, I'd source customers who have been to, who have just been to the island. So families who have just been, they'll go home, they'll be telling all their friends and family about it, they'll be kind of getting kind of their...
So you're searching for hashtags then on social media to find those people?
Different devices. I mean, you can do some social listening. Some people, the brand might already have some of the details about people who have visited and work with their tourism travel partners. You can also run competitions, like I alluded to earlier. So, if you run a competition, you can get some data capture, and then you can invite...
Don't do everybody else's job, all right? That'll do for now. Come back. Debbie, you're kicking in with the PR and the traditional influence.
I would understand the audience first. So you said 25, families with 25...
45.
I'd use for Engage to go out and do the mapping to really understand. Look at the airline, the tourist boards, social audiences, who's following them, understand them, create the persona so you know exactly what they like, who they're influenced by, and then create a campaign that talks directly to them.
Okay. Would you send in influencers from the outside, mummy bloggers?
Possibly. Depends on the campaign and the metrics and finding the right influencer to influence the customers.
Would you look for influencers on the island in
Probably
Polynesia?
a combination of both, yes.
Okay. James, you're going to kick in.
It sounds like everyone would use their own tool, their own company, unsurprisingly. But yeah, I mean, on Whaley, we've got 2,000 content creators globally. If we need to onboard for a specific destination, say we're short in Brazil and there's not enough influencers in Brazil, we can crawl Facebook and Instagram to onboard more people for that project. But these guys mentioned it's about finding the right people to approach and get over. And
would you, as Jeremy was suggesting earlier, you'd get bloggers, if you were going to bring them in, who were in the specific market, say Germany, UK, Sweden in this case, Northern Europe, to speak in their own languages as well to those specific audiences? Yeah,
I mean, a lot of our influencers, wherever they are in the world, are using English language, or at least do both, at least on Instagram. But yeah, definitely, it's a good idea.
Danica, lots of data analysis.
Yeah, so I'd want to maximize the engagement and the reach. So my recommendation would be to fly in influencers, do a balance of influencers, local as well, but fly in influencers from different locations and create a full experience for them to post and tag as much as possible. I would recommend partnering with other brands that can increase that exposure as well. And yeah, just get them to @mention and photo tag away. And then, I mean, like, ultimately, Instagram is, a group of people wanting other people's lives. It's like you're scrolling through, you're loving all of the content, so make it as desirable as possible. Create some fun local experiences that they're going to be able to take to make those other people who are not there wish they were there, so that they'll start to come in and become tourists. So I would maximize all of those partnerships as much as possible, and then I guess looping it back into our own platforms, I would use Dash Hudson to track all of that.
Other data analysis tools are available. Jeremy.
Sorry, just before we move on, could I also, as when you have people in that destination, don't treat them like journalists, because they're not, and they really need time in order to create the content. So most tourist boards tend to apply, well, it works for a journalist or it works for a travel agent, so I'm going to do the same. You've really got to give them lots of time. Don't give an Instagrammer a huge lunch when they actually need to be up at dawn looking for the light. So you've just got to change how you welcome people when you do have them.
And that is another project that's coming up at 4 o'clock, which I only read about this morning. Was Austria has done a year in Austria project, and what they've done, talking about giving somebody time, they put a blogger into Austria for a year. So Kate, who is it? The particular blogger, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, is living in Austria for a year. In different parts of the country. She's been commissioned, engaged and hired to create something like 1,200 pieces of content, written, audio, video, all the way through. So that is really a long-term project which is going to generate a lot of content. But Jeremy, back to Polynesia. You wanted to say something else, sorry.
No, I was going to say something that you are now did a spoiler, but don't worry. Well, everything they said is correct and is good, but first of all, I'll say, what are we good at? Because are we capable to bring families there in this little island or not? Are we capable to bring golfers or scuba divers, all that? First, or what are we capable to do? Because we cannot target everybody and not everything is suitable for everybody. Then I would think of something innovative. If it's a small island, I like the campaign of Veg Up in the Wall, I like all these campaigns, but as you said now, the year in Austria, I think that probably the best example that we have in Europe is the Blockville in Emilia-Romagna. They have this apartment that you can spend 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks there's more bloggers coming and they live like a local. We have a similar program in Costa Brava called Residence Bloggers. There is a minimum of 6 weeks they have to spend there, and from 6 weeks to 3 months, and they live like a local and they experience like a local. So all these, they create more relevant content and more credible and more reliable content. So all this, if not, if you want to get awareness, bring a congress of travel bloggers and have them for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Try to organize if you want, if you have a little budget, not a lot of budget, but a little budget, but be brave.
Very good.
Be brave and try things.
Do you try and get the same people returning year after year to look at that sort of, make them brand ambassadors, you say?
For the residence program or for
Costa Brava?
It depends. It depends on what our objectives of each year.
Because we very much preach about making influencers brand ambassadors, which works for a product. Say if I was trying to sell this water and you see me post about it once, you think, okay, that's paid for. But if I'm always drinking this water on my feed throughout the year, then it obviously looks more authentic. But for a destination like Costa Brava, you're not going to be continually flying the same person out over time. Yeah. So I just wondered how you were doing that.
It depends, because it depends on the content you want to produce. If this blogger or influencer wants to is capable to do different pieces of content, of course I don't want their feed only to be Costa Brava, because then it's not going to be credible. A very important thing when we talk about bloggers compared to journalists is the bloggers are the brand. So the content creators, but they're brands. So whatever they do, they have to be loyal to their audiences. So if they produce something that is clearly paid or clearly that not according to what they feel, you realize. So you cannot be like having Costa Brava or any brand in the feed like every second post or every third post. So we need to make it in time, so make it good for them, but make it good for you. So don't bring it anytime, but have to make them remember that they are there always.
Okay, great stuff. Can we get the questions up on the screen, please? Remember, if you'd like to pose any questions to the panel, we've got 7 or 8, 10 minutes to go through your questions. They're up on the screen now. There's a 9 voted for there, so I'm sure that will be of interest. Lawrence, Nora, thank you, Lawrence. How do you find influencers to work with, and what sort of research do you do to find the right influencers for you? Well, we've touched on that broadly. Anybody want to add anything to that question that we haven't already covered? I think we've pretty well done that, okay. We've used bloggers and influencers which helped. This is from M, from the Bond films, but only for a short period when the post was on top of their blog. How do we prolong the time that the effect of these posts are useful? Okay, that's interesting.
Well, I'm just going to go, if I might butt in, that this longevity and sustainability, I think whoever you're working with in terms of influence is really important. And a lot of the brands that I've spoken to and worked with get quite annoyed at this kind of short-termism that they've found with some influencers. Some they've worked with and some they haven't. And I think being able to have the Austria idea, I just think it's brilliant. For a year, that's great. I imagine it's a real content suite they've created. It sounds fabulous, and certainly with customers and employees, that's what we're looking for as well. And it's kind of how we got into it, because it was a long-term program that we could build that could last years, and incorporate PR campaigns, seasonal campaigns, one-off campaigns, but sort of sustainable relationships, and being able to deepen those relationships with your influencers, I think is kind of critical.
Debbie, is this top of your field that you've got to produce content that has long shelf life?
Well, yes, but it's also beholden on the tourist board or the travel partner to promote that content if it exists. Nothing is more frustrating than doing a campaign and then whoever it is who's responsible for the tourist boards or the travel company's social media just ignores the fact it's happening. And I can't tell you how many times it's in a different department, so the person who's arranged for the influence to come doesn't have control over the social media. So if that blog post is there, shout about it. Yeah. Once it's there, it doesn't matter if it's at the bottom of the blogger's feed. It's content, live evergreen content that you can constantly go back to, have conversations with, point to. The influencer will love it because you're shouting about their content the whole time. So use it. Keep talking about
it. Danica and Jeremy?
But use it. You have to use it as a DMO or as a brand, use it. And for instance, one of the easiest things is do a social website, or social wall, we call it. Social wall. So just make a Google Maps map and just point all your content related to one topic, to one city, to one subject. So it's very easy, and you have to use it, because at the end, this social website is going to be more useful than the official website, because if you ask me for a restaurant, I cannot recommend a restaurant. But if a blogger or influencer or anyone has been there, they can recommend it. So it's much more useful than the official one. So.
And also, this is for a short period, so it sounds as though they bring some in, get some stuff, and then expect it to get long term. They can't do that. Danica, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so I just have a few thoughts on that. In terms of, repurposing some of the posts that have come out of it, a really great way is to put it on your website. Have it connected on your website in like a carousel on your homepage that can connect to product pages or to like trips or content pages. So that's another way to repurpose it. Also reposting the content, from time to time, or having a variety of it. The other thing that I would do too is, when you're working with larger influencers, maybe you only have the budget to work with them on one-off campaigns, but really looking into your audience to see who's organically engaging with you. Are there micro-influencers that you can reach out to and maybe partner with them on a more regular basis, inviting them to different events, in the country, in the city that you're working with, and creating more of those brand ambassador relationships like we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely. And also, if it's a destination, get all your members in the destination to share this content as well. Make it unbranded, timeless, and you can keep pumping this stuff out all the time. James, do you want to come into this one about, as an agency who works with tourism boards, I fully believe we should be working with influencers, struggling to get our clients on board. Is that something you've come across?
Yeah, 40% of our work comes from agencies. Obviously, the big tourism boards, a lot of them will use agencies. We obviously show off examples that we've done in the past. We come on board to the agency when they're pitching the business, and we'll help with that. We'll help put proposals together. We're always kind of preaching about influencer marketing and the benefits of it, trying to push people over the line. Is there
still resistance out there, though, to influence?
Apparently, yeah. I think in the travel space especially, I think everyone still expects it to be free.
Debbie?
Yes, I think people have been burnt. There are some companies who have had experiences of working with influencers and it hasn't worked, and maybe they've chosen the wrong people. So you sometimes have to re-educate and show people the way it can work effectively.
Okay.
But yes, it's not a simple solution, because it's not particularly as a tourist board, when you're spending government money, you have to be absolutely sure that you take the risk of your ROI, but you have to make sure that you're doing the right thing for the country. So it's very important that it's really well thought through before you spend taxpayers' money on it.
And Danica, there's a specific point I was going to address to you. We talked about this as well. The Instagram bots, the changes of the algorithms all the time, but you stay on top of this because that's your job. And you explain to your customers and the brands what's happening with it. Frustrating for them, but you roll with it, and it's improving Instagram, or is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it is making it, a bit tougher on brands, because before, like with the algorithm, you used to just post as many times as you could, and that's how you got engagement. Whereas now you have to be a little bit more strategic with the content you're producing. In terms of this question specifically, with an influencer, if they bought followers, they bought followers because they have a terrible engagement. So really being able to track what that average engagement looks like. So as an influencer, we expect that they should have a higher engagement than your average brand. And so when, if they don't have that high engagement, then it's either they have an unengaged audience, so then it kind of leads you to think, how did they get that audience to begin with? And so using tools that will assess that will help you a lot.
Instagram is the best platform for producing stats and data and analysis. Is that fair to say?
For Instagram specifically?
Yeah, Instagram you can get more out of Instagram in terms of demographics than...
Yeah, I think just with Instagram it's still more organic, so you have more control over how much reach you have, how much exposure you have. The more engaging your content is, the more likely it's going to be shown on your followers' feeds. So that's that control element, whereas like a Facebook, for example, is more of that pay-to-play. Okay,
Jaume, this is from an anonymous blogger, obviously. So refreshing to hear brands talk about maintaining and paying content creators, i.e. me. You're a business, we're a business, the only way forward. True?
Yes.
Fine. Next question. Let's see. Okay, well, Instagram only has space for URL on the profile page. Bit of a downer for getting clicked through. You can get round this, can't you, James, with mirroring the site behind?
On the top one?
Yeah.
And space for URL.
Isn't that right? You can mirror an Instagram page and have click-throughs from each image, as far as I know. Or maybe I'm completely throwing a hook in the wrong
Question's too long. Focus.
Is there a way to maximize results with Instagram and the travel industry, or is it just about posting pretty pictures and hope it'll inspire future travel?
Yeah, I mean, you can obviously take those images and push them behind your own paid ads. And you can use those images wherever you want. We've had them used online and offline in brochures, on the side of buses, you name it. So it's great value for money.
Yeah, I sort of support that view. It can be, I think what we're talking about is in terms of evergreen content and reusing content, it can be really cost effective. So it's thinking about, the content creation long term and how you can slice and dice it for your influencers.
Okay, and probably one or two more. It refers to you, Danica, but also Mark, that you are up to speed on sort of. There's still a huge amount of fake stuff going on with social platforms. Authenticity is an issue, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's how we came to micro-influencers and customers' employees, because we think authenticity is key. I mean, probably most people are aware of the sort of Fire Festival this year, and that was kind of one thing that came up this year in terms of, transparency and authenticity. Yeah. And also kind of actually But I mean, I suppose the caveat here is it's kind of a relatively new space, right? So I mean, influencer marketing, even if you put SP on something, a lot of the general public might not know what it is. There's kind of, it's kind of a complex ecosystem, and it is evolving. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it erodes consumer trust when they see different stuff happening on different feeds, and they kind of don't buy into it. So I think it's absolutely. Authenticity, I think, is huge.
Okay. I'm just going to go around each of you to finish up with, if we're sitting here in a year's time, what would be the hot topic of influencer marketing that we would be discussing, Jaume?
In how many years?
1. Or 5, if you like.
Let's start the other way.
Who wants to go first? Not Jaume. Debbie.
Well, the conversation this afternoon from Facebook was the growth of video.
Yeah.
So I think this time next year we should be looking at what that genuinely means in terms of influencer marketing and how we can embed that into everything.
So good video makers are in a good position right now.
Clever use of video, creative use of video. So there was a tourist board that just put a video camera on a sheep and had a whole campaign
That's
around
the Faroe Islands, yeah.
Sheep. And I mean, it doesn't have to be the obvious. So I think as an industry we need to be a lot more creative with the tools that we have available.
That's what advertising agencies used to do, isn't it?
Kick cameras on sheep.
They were creative agencies, that's the point.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, that's why the influencer community can come up with these creative ideas for us.
Next, who's volunteering?
Well, I'm super happy that I've got a question actually aimed at me, so I'm going to answer that. How do you find the right influencers?
It's your last question. Come on,
by region and profile, and this is a shameless plug, but if you go on Whaler, we have 2,000 creators. You can search by region. So wherever they are in the world, you can search by their age, you can search by whether they're interested in lifestyle or fashion or travel, obviously is a key one here. So we're basically matching the brand to the influencers. So if you're having that problem, check out Whaler, it's free to sign up.
That's going to cost me though to find that, isn't it? It's not a free service, is it?
No, it's free.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That's the free.
You can sign up, basically we take a commission on whatever you spend with influencers. That's how the model works.
That's interesting. Well, that's a good start then for people to use. Danica?
I would say video. I think you're right on the right path that way. I would say video, how influencers are interacting with video. I think a lot of brands struggle with video in getting that engagement. And so I think, how influencers are leveraging it, more behind the scenes, more live stories, and how we're going to track it.
Thank you.
I may agree, maybe next year video, may agree. But in the second year, we're going to talk about artificial intelligence.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Is that? Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's coming.
Yes.
Virtual reality? No?
I'm not sure about that. Artificial intelligence? Yes, I'm pretty sure that we're going to talk a lot about it in the next couple of years.
Mark?
So, yeah, VR and video, I think definitely, I kind of agree they'll be coming up. But I hope and I think that our concept of influencer marketing, the idea of influence, will be broader. So the kind of things I've been talking about in terms of that groundswell we'll begin to think differently about who has a capacity to influence.
I think we would all agree that there's going to be a lot more layers of complexity and sophistication to come in influencer marketing. It's not just buying somebody for half an hour, saying give us a post or a video. It's got to be long term, it's got to be more creative, and good luck with that in the future. In the meantime, I would like you to put your hands together for Jaume, Danica, James, Debbie and Mark for this afternoon's panel. Thank you very much.